whose responsibility is the stuff that's made? It's the people who make it. And if they haven't got a way of dealing with it or designing it so that it becomes food for the system, they ought to get the bill.
Welcome to the Swedish podcast Heja, Framtiden. My name is Christian von Essen. I am sitting here today at Inrego, the company in Täby, Stockholm. They are upcycling and recycling IT equipment for prolonged lifespan. And they have had some interesting seminar here today called Circular Tech Talk. And the distinguished guest here on stage was Ken Webster. I'm sitting here with Ken Webster now. Welcome to the show.
Oh, welcome. Yeah, an enjoyable day here in Inrego.
Tell us a bit about your background. You were serving as innovation manager at Ellen MacArthur Foundation.
I helped set up the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in terms of its intellectual background, put it that way. So I was head of innovation for a good number of years. And what this meant was synthesizing ideas around circular economy, which were present at the time, and strengthening them, if you like, as a message. And the message was twofold. One, it's a business opportunity. It's something that can be done usefully at the time. And secondly, it's not about being guilty. It's about designing products, components, and materials for extended lifetimes and for eventual recovery. It's not about doing with less. You know, that's a very important distinction, because this is about an eco-modern economy, if you like. It's not an economy of everybody trying to make do with next to nothing. There's no particular merit in that.
You've written a couple of books. The most popular one is The Circular Economy, A Wealth of Flows.
Yeah, that was the second edition. That was written and then revised for 2017 while I was at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. It's essentially a distillation of ideas which people tell me are still very relevant today. One is that we have to have a different perspective on the thinking, which is we've got to think more in systems, interconnected, interdependent systems. You don't inhabit a world like a machine, full of separate parts. Things are deeply interconnected. Secondly, that following cradle-to-cradle work, there are essentially two cycles in a circular economy. One technical, which is all of the stuff that is restored to order only by people, and the biological cycle, where living systems can restore order after breaking things down, but through growing plants, animals, and all the rest of it. So the emphasis in this work is to say, well, look, we've got some fairly solid principles: maintain capitals, keep products and components in services as long as it's economic, not just as long as forever. Nobody wants a 1992 Apple Mac, really, unless they're running a museum. So it's not as forever, it's for as long as it's practical and useful. And thirdly, design out waste so that everything becomes food for the system. Now, it's not difficult, you see, and what is difficult is getting a mindset where that can make business and economic sense when everything is set up at the moment to emphasize take, make, and dispose. You know, we don't pay the real prices for material, we don't pay the real prices for energy, we don't charge enough for the disposal of waste, we don't even know what's in the waste. So all of the market structures push us towards a linear economy, but the big thing, of course, is that and to coin a word, it's not sustainable. You just cannot keep doing it. Partly because 50% of carbon emissions come from the exploitation of materials, and partly because where does it end? You know, if you've got a growing economy and you've got a growing mountain of materials use, it just can't work. So a circular economy is inevitable, whether it's forced upon us by circumstances or whether it's something we choose to do, and trying to create positive business opportunities using a circular economy. It's just a different perspective. In principle, it's not hard. Doing the business models is, because all the rules of the game are in opposition to a circular economy, or nearly all of them.
Is that why many business models that are claiming to be circular have struggled or failed these past few years?
Well, circular economy is a label of an intention. The intention is to make products and services last longer, provide service for longer, or perhaps offer them as a service instead of a product, and to have them easily recovered and reconstructed into another cycle. Now, this is never perfect, It's not. Even in nature, you've got materials that end up being, for a certain period of time, waste until they become consumed by whatever creature likes to eat them. So, saying, I want a perfect circular economy, well, nobody's ever said that. It's perfect circle. There's no perfect circles. As somebody once said, perfection is finality. Nothing's perfect. The truth has lumps in it. So some people get obsessed by going, you can't have a perfect circular economy. But you can have an economy which goes in the direction of those principles of designing out waste, maintaining capitals, and producing very serviceable, long-lasting items. You can have, for instance, those things within business models. It's not crazy to do at all. Why not? You don't want a drill, as they say, a power drill. You want to do some jobs with the drill, unless you're one of those strange people who collect power drills. Okay, have a nice day. That's fine. But mostly you just want to get stuff done. Nick Hanauer, the economist, once said that wealth is that collection of accessible tools and services available to the population. Even Aristotle used to say the value is in the use of something, not the ownership of it. So who cares? You've got a nice pile of CDs from the 1990s. Good luck with that. They're mostly waste now because the world has moved on. But that doesn't mean to say we perhaps shouldn't design things that would allow the world to move on and not get too picky about it. Oh, well, look what happened to CDs. That was a waste of plastic. No, it provided lots of enjoyment for people. Now, if CDs had been better designed to be reprocessed, that'd have been fun. But these days you can have all the music in the world and you're not buying anything at all other than access to something like Spotify or whatever you do, YouTube music. So things can change in unexpected ways. There's nothing wrong with saying let's have an aspiration to make things more circular, more long-lasting, more accessible, cheaper to do so, and not have the bill for waste or have the bill that we can't pay for, which is in climate change.
You talk a lot about liability and financial incentives. You mentioned closing the liability loop.
Yeah. It's really interesting if we can do closing the liability loop.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, when you make something and you let the customer have it, maybe you sell it to them, the customer uses it for a long time, like this cup here, made of pottery. What happens to it when it gets broken? Well, it just goes in the waste bin. Now, if it was something perhaps a little bit more valuable than that cup, but in principle, those people who manufactured the cups should be able to take them back and do something constructive with it, or at least paid into a pool so that liability doesn't fall upon the public. Otherwise, let's import lots of cheap stuff which we're going to wear once and then ask the municipality to pay and everybody to pay in taxes for it to be processed. What? Whose responsibility is the stuff that's made? It's the people who make it. And if they haven't got a way of dealing with it or designing it so that it becomes food for the system, they ought to get the bill. They ought to get a charge on them. Because otherwise it's an invitation to export costs to the public purse, to people, to the environment. Who said that was part of the price?
But it sounds like that part of the system will not change itself. It will be probably regulated, and we see some of these laws and regulations coming. Materials passport, digital passport is one thing.
Yeah, of course, circular economy business models have developed quite substantially over the last decade and a half, and this is all to the good. But if the system conditions set by the people who manage the economic relationships in an economy are still advantaging a linear throughput economy because they think, oh, that's cheaper. It's only cheaper in terms of the consumer. It isn't cheaper in terms of environment and society. And it also misses a great opportunity. If there are more materials available which are carefully designed and you can do things with, waste doesn't become a problem. It becomes food for the system. So legislating in the right way to make sure that what arrives is identified, its ultimate responsibility is probably the manufacturer, and even while it's here, it's always got an exit point in terms of something useful can be done with it. It shouldn't be a problem. I'll give you a great example from India from years ago. Fast food was served to people on trains at station by people offering food wrapped in a banana leaf. Now, people took those on the trains and ate them, and where did the banana leaf go? Through the window. It didn't matter. Please litter. Nobody's worried about the littering of banana leaves. You had your chapati or whatever you were eating, and the packaging goes out the window. Not a problem. But look at today. The packaging that goes out the window is there for decades. Who says that that is okay? Why can't you be designed to be the equivalent of the banana leaf? Why not?
You stressed a point where you said maintain capitals. What do you mean by that?
Well, we've got a very nice table in here, or perhaps it's a reasonable table. How long will this last? Right? Is anything done in terms of maintenance to maintain the table in its use? Or is it treated as almost a disposable object? The offices are going to be refurbished in 3 years and then we just throw it out. So maintaining capital is maintaining those stocks of goods that can be used. In Sweden and other places in Britain, say Vinted, there are plenty of platforms now which encourage the use of already used clothing. And that's become quite sophisticated. It always was a market, but now it's become super. And eBay in Britain for refurbished electronics. It's a big thing going on. And what we're finding is that with platforms getting involved, many more people can get access to already enjoyed or previously enjoyed equipment much more easily, even pretty remote, rare stuff. People, I can get that. I have a little amplifier. It's real old for my guitar playing. I wanted a new button on this thing because it wasn't complete. Through eBay, I could find one, a couple of dollars to get it. And that maintains, if you like, the enjoyment and the fun of that piece of equipment way into the future. So this is the idea that with the right sort of networks, platforms, and connections, we can enjoy stuff for far longer and we can maintain its value, because maintaining value is always better than recycling it. Because recycling it, you mash it up. It's not got the form of a table anymore, it's just some splintered wood. Well, what value is that? And most of the circular economy is about restoring, refurbishing, reusing, remanufacturing. That's where the money's to be made too, incidentally, and that's what Enrego does. It maintains these laptops, fixes them up, polishes them up, and sells them to another user. That's great. You don't have to have so many new laptops in the world if you're doing that. It's really quite common sense. But so instead of thinking as circular economy as recycling, now what do we do about all the waste? It's not a waste management problem. It's a product maintenance opportunity. And if we have the rules to suit that, that can be great business, as Enrego is already proving.
So moving forward, we have a legislation coming in. We have more advanced technology like traceability, AI that can help us sort things. We hopefully will have better platforms for selling and circulating these products. Hopefully we will reach a point where the products are cheaper, as good as new product almost, far less CO2 emissions, of course. And also, as you pointed out in your talk today, we will have in the future plenty of green, renewable, cheap energy as well. Yeah. So is that a way to look at this movement moving forward? That it's not a dead end. It's a great opportunity.
It's a great opportunity. Walter Stahel says that the circular economy is an economic opportunity led by innovation, and that means innovation in policy making as well as in how you design and deploy products, components, and services. But one of the key things in this opportunity is people want to access stuff They don't necessarily want to own it. Why would you own it? We're back to that point. And if it can be comfortably supplied, I can get something on Amazon tomorrow because I have a Prime account. Now, what if I was able to send it to somebody else, who's agreed to have it as an opportunity to refurbish it, because I only wanted to do one job with it? That would be part of a circular economy, not perfect. It'd be great if it went back to whoever sold it to me. But the point is, the communications and data networks that we have make all of this very, very much more simpler than it used to be. People don't even have to leave their apartments now. The food will be delivered. The shopping will be delivered. They could probably get something delivered from a tool library to do the jobs they want. There's a taxi on demand, on call, outside the door when you want. What's the problem with, why do you want to fill the house full of stuff? Why not have something that you really enjoy, and then when you're finished with it, move on? It's almost like some people from some eras thought that only more stuff means more importance, whereas a lot of younger people say that experience matters more than stuff. The quality of your relationships matters more than stuff, because stuff's not the problem. This isn't the 1950s when you celebrated getting a piece of linoleum for your living room floor. The carpet, yeah, you can get it. You can get it second-hand. What's it going to cost? Nothing much. So concentrating perhaps on the things that add more value to your life is more important than saying, oh, I want to show you I've got gold bath taps, or the latest thing. I think we're getting a little bit post-consumer in terms of, for many people, they want to show the quality of what they've got, not whether it's new, not how much it costs. It's just, look, and that's a 30-year-old jacket. That's cool. It didn't cost that much and it's been used forever, but hey, look, it's got real wear in it. So I think some of these changes are going to come, but only if people have enough income to buy quality stuff as well. So at the moment, we're trying it both ways. Oh, the consumer hasn't got any money, therefore you've got to make it as cheap as possible. Therefore, it's terrible quality. And then we're going to ask the local authority to clean it all up afterwards, instead of saying, well, actually, if we charge the real price for these goods and services and give people in compensation a basic dividend or a basic income, we can charge the real prices without them becoming poorer. And then it creates a new market for economic activity, because this stuff that's being available is built in a way that becomes part of a circular economy. No, it's just you've got to break the log jam somewhere around an economy of quality stuff that circulates for long periods of time and that people can enjoy being a part of.
So on one hand, basically we can move towards a circular economy using the current systems, only moving from ownership to accessibility. On the other hand, if we really want to move things, we need to maybe restructure economic models and challenge the system.
Yeah, to some extent. We're not just going to move from buying stuff to renting it. Enrigo will sell you a laptop, but they'd be very happy to have it back when you're finished with it. They'll buy it back. They'd like to keep hold of it. They enjoy that, but it is buying and selling. It's still buying and selling. When it comes to the economic structures, the question was asked today, why do we tax people for labor? That's a renewable thing. People's work time. Why are you taxing that? Why aren't you taxing waste? Why aren't you taxing resources? Why aren't you taxing financial assets? Why do we have to get money from labor and consumption? Because we want to make people's lives more comfortable so that the more of the money they earn, they can spend on doing good things or interesting things. And why do we want to tax consumption a bit? Well, shouldn't that tax be on the people who produce their products, components and materials to make sure their prices are real, or, they cover costs? We shouldn't be taxing labor and other renewables. We should be taxing unearned income from the ownership of assets, from the exploitation of shared resources. The atmosphere is shared. Everybody has a right to clean air, or in terms of the oceans, the commons. If you want to exploit the commons, you ought to pay a lot and compensate those people who have not exploited it with a share of the bounty that they have received. That's the principle. And you stop taxing people because you want more people to be involved in the economy, fixing things, creating new jobs, selling services, maintaining things. You want more people to be involved. We don't want to race to the bottom about how cheap you can make things because you're screwing people over with high housing prices, very poor welfare benefits, and with big bills to clean up the waste everywhere, never mind the climate change challenge, which is going to cost billions, euros, dollars, or krona, whatever way you look at it.
What is your best tip for making the world a better place in the future?
Well, one's best tip. Understand systems thinking. In other words, understand how things connect. Because what we do is very narrow thinking. Let me be instrumental. I want to do this. Well, what about the context? What else have you just done when you made a small decision there? Think broadly, think systems, and then the answer should be able to cover more than the one base. I might get drunk, but what's the follow-up going to be? Whereas if I have slightly less, enjoy the company, hey, it's a win all around, rather than get arrested outside the nightclub. It's just such short-term thinking. That's what we do. We short-term think and we think narrowly.
Great. Let that be a lesson. Thank you so much, Ken Webster, for joining Heja Framtiden and Impact Loop today.
My pleasure.
Hejaframtiden.se for more information about this podcast, and impactloop.se and impactloop.com for news around the impact community in Sweden and Europe. My name is Christian von Essen. Thank you so much for listening. We're recording here from Inrego today in Stockholm, inrego.se. Thank you so much for listening.